Sebastian Vettel put in the mightiest of underdog performances at Monza in 2008, coaxing his midfield Toro Rosso to pole position in torrential rain on one of Formula One's most beloved circuits, before delivering a lights-to-flag victory the following day in conditions that weren't much better. For any driver, the achievement would be impressive, but for the 21-year-old to do it in his first full season of Grand Prix racing and without the best car was staggering.
This has been one of the most impressive things I've ever seen in almost 20 years in Formula One.
What a supreme drive from this 21-year-old.
Becoming at the time the youngest ever Grand Prix winner and showing maturity well beyond his years in the trickiest of weather. After this day, there was no doubt that Vettel was a superstar.
Sebastian Vettel is a Grand Prix winner for the first time. He's the youngest ever, and that's one of the greatest things I've ever seen in Grand Prix racing.
You have won the Italian Grand Prix. You have won the Italian Grand Prix. I'm proud of you. Bravissimo. Bravissimo.
Thanks. Wonderful race. Great job. Yeah!
For sure the best day of my life. I mean, these pictures, these emotions, I will never forget. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's so much better than you might think it is. It's great.
Max Verstappen was aged just 19 when he earned comparisons to some of the greats with a spectacular recovery drive at the 2016 Brazilian Grand Prix. Having dropped down the order following a late pit stop for wet tyres, Verstappen proceeded to pass 11 drivers, including teammate Daniel Ricciardo.
He's finding grip when no one else is.
Verstappen on Kvyat, job done.
And now look, here goes Max Verstappen once again.
They might even be on the podium, yeah.
And the now four-time world champion Vettel in 14 breathless laps in Brazil.
Vettel comes to cover him off, but in doing so, he allows Verstappen the opportunity down the inside. Do they make contact? Sebastian Vettel yields and goes onto the grass as well. And Verstappen goes up in a 5th place.
Atta boy. Go on.
Here comes Max Verstappen, and he is skimming his way over the surface.
Though he was undoubtedly helped by his fresh rubber, there was no longer any question that Verstappen had everything.
Come on, lad, you can do it. He's done it. It's something special that you're witnessing today, I think.
His boss Christian Horner compared his performance to great wet drives by Senna and Schumacher. And Mercedes team principal Toto Wolff commented that he was redefining physics.
What a thrilling drive that was from Max Verstappen today. Absolutely superb.
Immortalised by the film Rush, the denouement of the 1976 Formula One season in the shadow of Mount Fuji is the stuff of legend. The circuit was fast and, with brand new asphalt, smooth, meaning the track was literally flooded in places and the danger was off the chart. Racing brutal machinery in near impossible conditions, Niki Lauda ended his title battle with James Hunt early, deciding it was too dangerous to race and pulled out, along with many other drivers. This left Hunt needing a top 4 finish to secure the championship. He was running second when a puncture put him in the pits and dropped him to 5th, before charging through to 3rd place with 2 laps to go. An epic drive under immense pressure in a race that, by today's standards, would not have gone ahead.
Give me a drink. Congratulations, James. Fantastic. Thank you. Did we really win?
The opening lap of the 1993 European Grand Prix at Donington Park is considered by some to be the single greatest Formula One lap of all time. 10 years after Senna had first tested an F1 car at the same venue, he lined up 4th on the grid. It was 5th after the first corner. From then on, he was on another planet, instantaneously dispatching Michael Schumacher and Carl Wendlinger.
Senna is up to 3rd.
And after being crowded at the start, a quite brilliant couple of corners by Ayrton Senna.
And 2 corners later, passing Damon Hill.
And Senna into 2nd place already, and he's giving it absolutely everything.
40 seconds later, he went inside Prost at the old hairpin to claim the lead.
And Senna goes through into the lead.
Arguably, there has never been a more thrilling example of Senna's skill in the rain. He went on to dominate the race, lapping all but one car. Truly a master at work.
Here is Ayrton Senna across the line, and it is victory for the Brazilian. I've done it, he says.
Lewis Hamilton made a lightning start from 4th on the grid in the 2008 British Grand Prix, before dummy passing his McLaren teammate Heikki Kovalainen on lap 5 to claim a lead that he would not relinquish.
Look at Hamilton down the inside. The crowd goes mad as Lewis Hamilton sides up the inside, but Kovalainen's not having that. He looks in his mirrors to see where Hamilton is. Hamilton has gone past Kovalainen.
Sometimes 5 to 6 seconds a lap faster than the other drivers on the same tyre, Hamilton drove exceptionally, making everyone else look like also-rans, as he won by over a minute in conditions where, at points, he couldn't see through his visor or his wing mirrors. Driving on pure instinct and skill, it was the day that Hamilton came of age as a true great and cemented his place in the hearts of British fans.
I was coming to the last lap and I could see the crowd beginning to stand up, and I was just praying, keep it on the track, just finish. You could not imagine the emotions that are going inside.
Lewis Hamilton wins the British Grand Prix. A fantastic performance, a mesmerising drive.
Michael Schumacher was already a double world champion by the time he signed for Ferrari in 1996. But it was at the rain-soaked Spanish Grand Prix that he proved his talent could transport subpar machinery into places it had no right to be. After an awful start, Schumacher methodically picked off his rivals, and once in the lead simply drove away from the field, setting a string of fastest laps, the best of which a whopping 2.2 seconds faster than anyone else. And even more remarkable when you consider that in dry conditions in qualifying, his Ferrari had been nearly a full second slower than the Williams of Hill and Villeneuve. Often nicknamed the Rainmaster following this performance, the day was the beginning of what would become a legacy.
And Michael Schumacher wins the Spanish Grand Prix after an absolutely superlative drive.
Inarguably, Damon Hill's greatest F1 performance was to triumph over Michael Schumacher over an aggregated race at a sodden Suzuka in 1994. Needing to beat Schumacher to keep his championship hopes alive, Hill drove out of his skin under enormous pressure. The opening 3 laps were daunting as hail fell from the skies and the safety car was deployed, with 3 drivers aquaplaning and crashing out. The race did restart, but was stopped following Martin Brundle's awful accident at the Dunlop curve, which badly injured a marshal. The race would be restarted, but this time with Schumacher holding a 6.8 second lead on aggregate. The momentum swung both ways, but Hill, with one tyre blistering after failing to be changed during his sole pit stop, drove out of his skin under enormous pressure to hold off the 2-stopping Schumacher and win by 3.36 seconds to keep his title dream alive.
Damon Hill wins the Japanese Grand Prix.
I couldn't be cautious. I knew that I really just could not drive with any amount of conservatism, so I was really sort of throwing caution to the wind and in an effort to stay ahead of Michael. And that's so satisfying to race like that. It really does mean a lot to end up in first position at the end of the race.
Jim Clark's Lotus 25 was jumping out of 5th gear at 9,500 RPM, meaning he was obliged to drive left-handed as he held the gear lever in engagement with his right. Driving at Spa-Francorchamps is tricky enough at the best of times, but doing so one-handed, in the pouring rain, while holding off Graham Hill, is bordering on superhuman. Dodging crashed cars and drivers, Clark's gearbox problems worsened, but despite only using 4 gears, he lapped the field up to 3rd place. And while Bruce McLaren finished on the same lap, he was very nearly 5 minutes behind the Flying Scot. By any standard, It had been a stunning performance. Ayrton Senna's first victory in Formula One was nothing short of remarkable. The track was flooded, the light was terrible, but Senna was supreme. While other drivers, including the likes of Alain Prost and Keke Rosberg, struggled simply to keep their cars pointing in the right direction, Senna, racing for only the second time for Lotus and in just his 16th Grand Prix to date, put on a masterclass in wet weather driving, obliterating the field and lapping everyone but the Ferrari of Michele Alboreto, who finished over a minute behind.
Out goes the checkered flag, and Senna has won.
Senna flung off his seatbelts and all but climbed out of the cockpit as he raced down the pit straight, arms aloft in celebration. He had well and truly arrived.
I could not see anything in front of me. With the cars going in front, it was impossible to see anything, and you had to go by because it was a big difference in the pace that I was going. So it was one of the biggest moments that I had in the race.
A series of deaths earlier in the 1968 season, including that of Jim Clark, had brought Formula One safety into sharp focus. So the prospect of racing on the Nürburgring, the most challenging and dangerous track in the world, seemed even scarier than usual. And that was before the weather made it even worse. An ugly concoction of heavy rain, fog and mist was just something else drivers were expected to deal with, and none did so better than Jackie Stewart. His team boss Ken Tyrrell later revealed that it was the only time he'd ever ordered a driver to race against their will. But Stewart rose to the occasion nonetheless, dominating the race and winning by over 4 minutes. Racing in those conditions would never be allowed today, and as such, Stewart's drive that day is in many ways unsurpassable. A blend of bravery, skill and talent that we will not, and probably should not, ever see again.